The laughter echoed across the ammunition depot as Sergeant Linda Martinez walked past the storage bunkers, her fellow soldiers still snickering about her assignment. 3 years of exemplary service. And here she was pulling guard duty at the most boring post on Fort Campbell, while everyone else got the meaningful missions. Staff Sergeant Roberts shook his head as she approached the main gate. You must have really ticked off someone upstairs to get stuck babysitting explosives all day. The other NCOs nodded in agreement, treating her reassignment like some kind of punishment detail that nobody wanted. Linda adjusted her gear without responding to their comments, checking her rifle and radio equipment with the same precision she brought to every assignment. The small combat patch on her right shoulder caught the morning sunlight, but none of them seemed to notice or care about the specialized unit insignia that marked her previous deployment. She had requested this position specifically, though she kept that information to herself. While others saw depot duty as exile from real military work, Linda understood something they missed about the critical importance of ammunition security. Her background gave her perspectives on explosives and tactical operations that made this assignment far more significant than anyone realized. The morning briefing had been routine, with the usual reminders about perimeter checks and visitor protocols. What her fellow soldiers did not know was that Linda had spent 18 months in Afghanistan working with explosive ordnance disposal teams, learning things about ammunition storage and security that went far beyond standard military training. The black sedan arrived without warning, cutting through the depot entrance as Linda conducted her afternoon perimeter check. A 2-star general stepped out, his aide quickly following behind as they approached the main storage facility where she stood guard. General Patterson stopped directly in front of Linda, his eyes immediately focusing on the combat patch that her fellow soldiers had dismissed all morning. The bronze star device attached to her uniform caught his attention next, and his expression shifted from routine inspection to something approaching reverence. Sergeant Martinez, the general said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made Staff Sergeant Roberts and the other NCOs freeze mid-conversation. I heard you were assigned here, but I had to see it for myself. The hero of Firebase Delta, guarding our ammunition depot. Linda maintained her professional bearing as the general continued speaking. Your actions during the Kandahar operation saved 37 lives when those suicide bombers breached the perimeter. The way you manually defused those IEDs while under direct fire earned you more than just that Bronze Star. The other soldiers watched in stunned silence as General Patterson rendered a crisp salute to Linda, treating her with the formal respect reserved for distinguished veterans. Your expertise in explosive ordnance disposal and tactical response is exactly why I personally requested your assignment to this depot, Sergeant Martinez. Roberts and his group exchanged bewildered glances, suddenly realizing they had spent the entire morning mocking someone whose military service far exceeded their own understanding. The laughter from earlier seemed foolish now as they witnessed a general showing deference to the woman they had dismissed as punishment detail. The silence stretched across the depot after General Patterson departed, leaving Linda's fellow soldiers grappling with what they had witnessed. Staff Sergeant Roberts stared at the ground, his earlier confidence about her punishment assignment completely shattered by the general's respectful treatment. Firebase Delta, one of the younger soldiers whispered to another. I heard about that attack on the news. 37 Americans would have died if someone hadn't stopped those bombers. The reality of Linda's service record began settling over them like a heavy weight. Linda resumed her patrol duties without acknowledging their stunned reactions, checking the perimeter fence with the same methodical precision she had maintained all day. Her humble demeanor remained unchanged despite the general's public recognition, treating her assignment with continued professional dedication. Roberts approached her cautiously, struggling to find words that could address his morning behavior. Sergeant Martinez, I had no idea about your background. We all assumed this was some kind of disciplinary action. His voice carried genuine remorse as he recognized how badly they had misjudged her. The other NCOs watched from a distance, whispering among themselves about the Bronze Star citation and what explosive ordnance disposal work actually involved in combat zones. Their perception of depot guard duty shifted dramatically as they realized someone with their specialized training might be here for reasons far beyond their understanding. Questions began emerging about why a decorated EOD specialist would specifically request ammunition depot assignment, and what threats might require her particular expertise at this seemingly routine installation. The radio crackled to life during Linda's evening shift, breaking the uneasy quiet that had settled over the depot since General Patterson's visit. Base security reported unusual activity near the perimeter fence, with motion sensors detecting movement in sectors that should have been empty. Roberts and his team responded to the alert with newfound respect for Linda's presence, no longer treating her assignment as coincidence. The way she immediately shifted into tactical assessment mode suggested training that went far beyond standard guard procedures. Linda examined the sensor readings with expertise that surprised the other soldiers, identifying patterns in the movement that indicated coordinated surveillance rather than random wildlife activity. Her EOD background gave her insights into how hostile forces typically conducted reconnaissance before attempting to breach secure facilities. The base commander arrived within minutes, briefing them on recent intelligence about potential threats to ammunition storage facilities across multiple installations. Terrorist cells had been targeting military explosives depots, using sophisticated methods to bypass standard security measures. As Linda listened to the briefing, the other soldiers began understanding why a decorated EOD specialist might be specifically assigned to protect their ammunition stores. Her experience with improvised explosive devices and tactical response made her uniquely qualified to recognize and counter the exact threats they now faced. The motion sensors continued registering activity throughout the night, creating tension among the guard detail as they realized their depot might be under active surveillance by hostile forces seeking to acquire military-grade explosives for terrorist operations. The surveillance escalated at dawn when Linda discovered fresh wire cuts along the outer perimeter fence, indicating that hostile forces had tested their defenses during the night shift. The precision of the cuts showed professional training, not random vandalism or curious civilians. Base security called an emergency briefing as similar breaches were reported at two other ammunition depots within a 50-mile radius. The coordinated nature of the reconnaissance suggested a well-organized cell preparing for simultaneous attacks on military explosive storage facilities. Linda studied the breach patterns with growing concern, recognizing tactics she had encountered during her deployment in Afghanistan. The methodical approach to testing security responses indicated adversaries with significant experience in targeting military installations. Roberts watched her analyze the evidence, finally understanding why General Patterson had personally ensured her assignment to this depot. Her specialized knowledge of explosive materials and terrorist tactics made her the ideal guardian for such a critical facility. The base commander ordered increased security protocols, but Linda identified vulnerabilities that standard procedures could not address. Her EOD training revealed potential attack vectors that conventional security forces might overlook, particularly regarding the unique properties of stored ammunition. Intelligence reports confirmed their worst fears as intercepted communications revealed that terrorist operatives planned to breach multiple depots simultaneously, seeking to acquire military-grade explosives for major urban attacks. The timeline suggested the assault would occur within hours, requiring immediate tactical response to prevent catastrophic theft of lethal materials. The terrorist assault began at midnight, with coordinated explosions at the main gate, drawing security forces toward the primary entrance, while hostile operatives breached the vulnerable eastern perimeter. Linda's tactical instincts immediately recognized the diversionary attack pattern. Roberts and his team followed her lead as she directed their response, positioning defenders to counter the real threat approaching the ammunition storage bunkers. Her combat experience guided their defensive strategy, while conventional security protocols proved inadequate against professional adversaries. The attackers moved with military precision toward the high-explosive storage facility, carrying sophisticated equipment designed to breach reinforced concrete barriers. Linda identified their approach route and realized they possessed detailed intelligence about the depot's layout and security weaknesses. Emergency reinforcements arrived from the main base, but Linda knew the terrorists would reach the ammunition bunkers before additional support could establish effective perimeter control. Her EOD training became critical as she recognized the specific techniques the attackers planned to use. The base commander established communication with Linda's position, acknowledging that her specialized expertise made her the tactical leader for defending the ammunition stores. Roberts and the other soldiers who had mocked her assignment now depended entirely on her knowledge to prevent catastrophic theft. Explosions echoed across the depot as the terrorists began their final assault on the storage facilities, forcing Linda to implement defensive measures that would test every skill she had learned during her distinguished service in Afghanistan's most dangerous combat zones. Linda moved through the depot with lethal efficiency as the terrorists breached the outer bunker, her muscle memory from Afghanistan taking control as she directed Roberts and his team into defensive positions. The attackers had underestimated the presence of a decorated EOD specialist among the guard detail. The first explosive device detonated against the reinforced storage door, but Linda had anticipated their breach technique and repositioned the ammunition to minimize potential chain reactions. Her knowledge of explosive materials prevented the catastrophic secondary explosions the terrorists needed to access the high-value ordnance. Gunfire erupted across the facility as Linda engaged the lead operative with precision marksmanship that reminded Roberts why she had earned her Bronze Star. Each shot found its target, while she simultaneously coordinated defensive fire from positions that maximized their tactical advantage. The terrorists attempted to plant additional charges on the main storage vault, but Linda had already identified their likely breach points and established countermeasures. Her EOD training allowed her to neutralize their explosive devices before they could complete their mission. Roberts watched in amazement as Linda demonstrated combat skills that far exceeded anything he had witnessed during routine training exercises. The woman they had dismissed as punishment detail was systematically dismantling a professional terrorist operation through superior tactical knowledge and battlefield experience. The hostile operatives began retreating as their mission failed, unable to overcome defensive measures implemented by someone who understood both their techniques and the vulnerabilities of ammunition storage facilities better than they anticipated. The retreating terrorists triggered a massive improvised explosive device as their final desperate attempt to breach the main ammunition vault, sending shockwaves across the depot that knocked Roberts and his team to the ground. Linda remained standing, immediately assessing the structural damage with EOD expertise that saved their lives. Secondary fires erupted around the storage facility as burning debris ignited smaller ammunition caches, creating a chain reaction scenario that could destroy the entire depot within minutes. Linda's specialized training kicked in as she calculated blast patterns and evacuation routes while directing firefighting efforts. Roberts struggled to his feet, watching Linda work with methodical precision under extreme pressure. She systematically isolated burning ammunition from larger explosive stores, preventing the catastrophic detonation that would have killed everyone within a half-mile radius of the facility. The base fire department arrived, but deferred to Linda's expertise as she coordinated the suppression efforts. Her knowledge of ammunition chemistry and explosive behavior guided their response, ensuring they used appropriate suppressants that would not trigger additional reactions. Linda single-handedly prevented the terrorist attack from achieving its secondary objective of destroying the entire ammunition depot through uncontrolled explosions. Her actions during the crisis saved not only the military personnel on base, but also the civilian population in the surrounding area. As the fires came under control, Roberts realized that Linda had just demonstrated why General Patterson personally requested her assignment to guard this critical facility, proving her current operational capability under the most demanding circumstances. The final terrorist operative emerged from the smoke with a dead man's switch, threatening to detonate remaining explosives that would trigger the catastrophic chain reaction Linda had worked desperately to prevent. Roberts and his team froze as the situation reached its most critical moment. Linda approached the bomber with calm precision that demonstrated nerves forged in Afghanistan's deadliest combat zones. Her EOD training had prepared her for exactly this scenario, where one wrong move could kill dozens of people and destroy millions of dollars in military ammunition. She spoke quietly to the terrorist while simultaneously analyzing the explosive device, identifying weaknesses in his trigger mechanism that her specialized knowledge could exploit. The techniques she had learned defusing suicide vests under fire became critical to saving everyone at the depot. With surgical precision, Linda disabled the dead man's switch using methods that Roberts could barely comprehend, neutralizing the final threat through skills that few soldiers possessed. The terrorist device became harmless in her expert hands, ending the assault completely. Emergency medical teams arrived to treat the wounded as Linda secured the remaining explosive materials with professional thoroughness. Her actions had prevented not only the theft of military ordnance, but also the destruction that would have devastated the entire base and surrounding community. Roberts watched Linda complete her post-incident procedures with the same methodical dedication she had shown during routine guard duty, finally understanding that her assignment had never been punishment, but rather the most critical security posting on the entire installation. General Patterson returned to the depot at dawn, surveying the aftermath of the terrorist assault that Linda had single-handedly defeated. His expression carried both pride and vindication as he witnessed the minimal damage to critical ammunition stores that could have been catastrophically destroyed. Roberts and his entire team stood at attention as the general approached Linda, their earlier mockery replaced by profound respect for the woman who had saved their lives. The transformation in their attitude was complete, recognizing her not as a punishment assignment, but as their protector. The base commander briefed General Patterson on Linda's tactical leadership during the crisis, detailing how her EOD expertise had prevented both the theft of military explosives and the chain reaction that would have devastated the installation. Her actions exceeded even the general's expectations. Word of Linda's heroic defense spread rapidly throughout Fort Campbell, with soldiers from other units seeking her out to express gratitude for preventing a disaster that would have affected the entire base. Her reputation evolved from dismissed guard to legendary protector within hours. Roberts approached Linda privately, struggling to articulate his remorse for the morning's treatment and his amazement at witnessing her extraordinary capabilities under pressure. The woman they had laughed at had proven herself superior to any soldier he had ever served alongside. Linda accepted his apology with characteristic humility, maintaining the same professional demeanor that had defined her service throughout the crisis. Her focus remained on duty rather than recognition, embodying the dedication that had earned her distinguished service record. Military personnel from across Fort Campbell arrived at the depot throughout the day, seeking to meet the EOD specialist who had prevented the catastrophic terrorist attack. Linda's tactical response had become the subject of intense discussion among officers studying her defensive strategies. The base newspaper featured her heroic actions on the front page, though Linda declined interviews and maintained focus on her continuing duties. Her humble approach to recognition only enhanced her legendary status among soldiers who valued substance over publicity. Roberts found himself fielding constant questions from other NCOs about working alongside someone of Linda's caliber, finally understanding that her assignment represented the highest level of trust and responsibility within their unit structure. General Patterson announced that Linda's defensive tactics will be studied at military academies as an example of superior EOD application under combat conditions. Her methods during the crisis had redefined how ammunition depots would be protected against terrorist threats. The Secretary of Defense personally called General Patterson to commend Linda's actions, Recognizing that her expertise had prevented a national security disaster that could have supplied terrorists with enough military explosives for multiple major attacks on civilian targets. Linda continued her patrol duties with unchanged dedication, treating her elevated status as simply another aspect of military service. Her commitment to protecting the depot remained absolute, knowing that her presence provided security that extended far beyond the immediate installation to the safety of countless American citizens. 6 months later, Linda's legend had spread throughout the entire military community as the EOD specialist who single-handedly defeated a coordinated terrorist assault on Fort Campbell's ammunition depot. Her tactical response had become required study material for all explosive ordnance disposal training programs. Roberts proudly served under her leadership as she was promoted to the depot's chief security officer. Their professional relationship transformed from mockery to deep mutual respect. He often reflected on how badly they had misjudged someone whose expertise far exceeded their understanding. The depot itself had been redesigned based on Linda's recommendations, incorporating defensive measures that she had developed during the crisis. Military installations worldwide implemented her security protocols, making ammunition storage facilities significantly more resistant to terrorist attacks. General Patterson visited regularly, consulting with Linda on ammunition security matters that affected national defense planning. Her insights into terrorist tactics and explosive materials had elevated her to advisor status on critical military policy decisions. Young soldiers assigned to the depot learned about Linda's heroic defense as part of their orientation, understanding that they served at a facility protected by one of the military's most decorated and capable specialists. Her presence provided confidence that extended throughout the entire base. Linda continued her duties with the same humble dedication that had defined her service, knowing that her work protecting military ammunition directly contributed to national security and the safety of American communities. Have you ever been underestimated in your service or work? Share your story of proving yourself when it mattered most.